service involves like provision of a labor, like utilization of labor, whereas sale involves transfer of property in goods. Service is intangible, you cannot see. If suddenly one person comes and sees in the class, you are sitting and I am sitting, am I doing any transaction? Can they see that I have provided? But am I providing some services or not? Of course not, but tell me yes. Okay, I am providing some services. So if someone asks, if they ask to show, definitely you cannot. Got the point? The services which are provided is intellectual property which is intangible, which you cannot see. Whereas in case of sale, easily you can identify that there is a sale. When the property or some goods transfers from one person to another person, no doubt there is movement of goods and tangible. Got the point? That is the main difference between sale and service. Service means useful result or product of labor, which is intangible. Product of labor means utilizing, that is you are giving your effort. It is a value addition which can be felt but cannot be seen. It can be felt. How it can be felt? At the end of the class you will know that you have felt something. Okay. However, usage of some goods during the course of providing service would not mean that there is no service. Got the point? Auditor example. He is providing service as well as he is using some goods for providing that service. It does not mean there is no service. There is service, but that service can be provided using some goods. Here the substratum of the transaction is service. The predominant factor should be considered. What is the predominant factor? That in case of first illustration, service is the predominant factor, though there involves both the elements. In case of next case, second illustration also, two factors are there. Sale of computer as well as installation services. But what is the predominant factor? Sale. In the third illustration, we cannot identify predominant factor because semi-part, half of the thing or more than half. The predominancy will be there only when 95% of the value is for services or 95% of the value is for goods, then predominant factor can be done. If not the case, then anyhow we got the result. What is that? Notification 12/2003. Next, what is service tax? It is an indirect tax. See, I will tell you. Service tax is at the rate of 10.3% on the value of taxable services provided by a service provider to service recipient. Clear? Now identify here, this is what service tax. Service tax is at the rate of 10.3% on the value of taxable services provided by a service provider to service recipient. Here one more point is there, provided or to be provided. Okay. So now in the definition of service tax, when we see there should be two people, two persons, service provider and service recipient. Next, what should be provided? It can be either provided or to be provided, means so some of the people will receive the money after provision of services. Some of the people receive amount before provision of services. Now in this case, what is this? Is it amount, you have paid amount for services to be provided by the service recipient, correct? Will they accept if you pay the fee after the class are over? Definitely not. Of course, after the class is over, you won't pay the fee. Okay. Whereas, in case of others, say postpaid connection, internet bills. Okay. In that case, what happens? First, they will provide the service, and after provision of service, you will pay the amount. That's where provided or to be provided. But what is the important consideration here? Recipient of money. Okay. Service provider, service recipient should be there. The services can be either provided or to be provided. First of all, there should be a service. That service should be a taxable service. For the taxable service, value has to be determined. Correct? Service Taxable service, value of taxable service. On that only 10.3%. What is service? Just now we understood. What is taxable service we need to see. Taxable service means there is a section called section 65 subsection 105 of Finance Act 1994. 1994. Okay, 1994. See, for service tax there is no separate act. The reason being, as there is no proper entry, there is no service tax act separately. But service tax is through a concept of Finance Act 1994. In Finance Act 1994, they introduced the service tax. Okay, so that's why in case of service tax, whenever the act comes, it is not Service Tax Act, but it is the Finance Act 1994. Okay, so here there is a section called section 65 subsection 105. In this section 65 subsection 105, there will be various services. All these services are known as taxable services. Got the point? So what is taxable service? When you will tell a service as taxable service, it should be mentioned in the section 65 of subsection 105 of the Finance Act 1994. Immediately it will become taxable service. And for this taxable service, you have to calculate the value, and on that value you have to pay 10.3%. Got the point? So this is known as service tax. Now see that first point. It is an indirect tax levied under section 66 of the Finance Act, no separate act, at the rate of 10% plus 3% for EC and SHEC. Okay, that is education cess and secondary and higher education cess. 3% on 10%, it comes to 0.3% on the value of taxable services provided or to be provided. Got the point? Value of taxable services provided or to be provided by whom? By service provider. If you want, you can add 1 point to service recipient. In order to levy service tax, 4 conditions are required to be satisfied. What are those 4 conditions? Number 1, definitely there should be 2 persons, service provider, service recipient. Next, consideration should flow from service provider to, service recipient to service provider. Reason, no consideration, no contract. That is the why always there should be a consideration, flow of consideration from service recipient to service provider. Next, such service should be a taxable service. What is a taxable service? A service which is mentioned under section 65 subsection 105, and the taxable event should be triggered. Clear? What is this triggering of taxable event? Means the duty shall be levied on happening of an event. That event we call it as taxable event. Only on happening of the taxable event the tax will be payable. That is what? The taxable event should be triggered. Can you repeat that 4 conditions? Very important. 2 parties, consideration, taxable service, taxable event should be triggered. Clear? In this case, who is service provider? Any person who is providing taxable service. Any person. What is the meaning of this person? Already you know this under income tax. Individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, company, cooperative society, everything. But one more point, central and state government is also part of person. In case of income tax, central and state government is not person, but here central or state government is person. Okay, please underline that. Okay. Sir, how come usually there are some government undertakings which will provide you services? Are you required to pay service tax in that case or not? You are required to pay. Okay, BSNL, Telecom Authority, okay, they will provide services for which you are paying service tax. Am I right? Not only this, there are many services which are provided by government. Every time you are required to pay service tax. Next, but in case of some statutory services provided by government, there is no service tax. Service tax has been exempted. Though central or state government is a person, it is subsequently divided into 2. Services provided by central or state government, and it is in the nature of statutory services. Then statutory services exempted. It is statutorily to be provided. As a citizen of India, you are required to get that services.